An apple tree leaf contains thousands of microscopic cells, each working in harmony to capture the sun's energy. This waxy upper surface, known as the cuticle, acts as a protective shield against excessive water loss. Underneath this barrier lies the palisade mesophyll, where rows of vertical cells are packed with green chloroplasts. These chloroplasts move within the cell, positioning themselves to absorb the maximum amount of golden sunlight. A single mature apple tree can produce enough oxygen for 2 people to breathe throughout the entire year. The delicate veins you see are the tree's vascular system, transporting water and minerals from the deep roots. Xylem vessels act like microscopic pipes, pulling moisture upward through a process called transpiration, while the phloem carries the sweet sugars produced in the leaves down to the developing fruit. On the underside of the leaf, thousands of tiny pores called stomata are beginning their evening dance. These stomata regulate the exchange of gases, allowing carbon dioxide to enter while releasing life-giving oxygen. Guard cells surround each pore, swelling or shrinking to open and close the gateway to the leaf's interior. As the sun begins its slow descent, the rate of photosynthesis gradually slows, signaling a shift in metabolism. The leaf's green color comes from chlorophyll, a pigment that absorbs red and blue light while reflecting green. Within these microscopic structures, water molecules are split apart by the sheer power of captured light particles. This complex dance of chemistry occurs silently, deep within the forest canopy. As the afternoon warmth lingers, microscopic hairs, known as trichomes, carefully cover the delicate surface of the young apple leaves, creating a boundary layer of still air that insulates the plant tissue from evening chills. As the wind gradually dies down, the entire canopy settles into a state of profound stillness. A single drop of crisp condensation begins to form at the tip of a serrated leaf edge. Deep underground, the roots continue to draw moisture, a silent engine working through the fading twilight. Beneath the rugged bark of the apple tree, layers of cambium slowly divide and grow. Tiny pores on the bark, known as lenticels, allow the woody trunk to breathe the cool air. Nearby, a developing green apple quietly stores the starches synthesized during the long, sunlit hours. The skin of the growing fruit is coated in natural waxes, protecting the moisture locked inside. A nocturnal moth finds safe refuge under a broad leaf, its wings folding into perfect camouflage. The entire ecosystem relies on this quiet period to gracefully repair, rest, and restore its intricate balance. Even as the golden light fades to a twilight blue, the forest canopy is never truly asleep. The vascular network within the leaves continues to distribute vital nutrients, maintaining a slow, rhythmic pulse. Millions of broad leaves act as a living blanket, trapping the day's warmth close to the earth. The microscopic stomata are now nearly closed, carefully conserving every precious drop of water for the night. Beneath the surface of the orchard floor, a hidden world of biological communication is constantly thriving. Vast networks of microscopic fungal threads, known as mycorrhizae, intertwine gracefully with the tree's deepest roots. These delicate symbiotic fungi extend far beyond the root tips, searching the dark earth for vital minerals. In a silent exchange, they deliver essential phosphorus and nitrogen directly to the host apple tree, while the tree generously rewards its fungal partners with rich liquid carbon, forged in the sunlit canopy. Swimming within the microscopic films of water between soil particles, tiny organisms navigate this subterranean landscape. The gentle tunneling of an earthworm gently aerates the soil, allowing oxygen to reach the deepest roots. Calcium and potassium ions are slowly absorbed through the root epidermis, maintaining the cellular pressure and stability. Above ground, the moss covering the ancient roots traps cool moisture, creating a perfect microclimate for nocturnal life. A single drop of heavy dew rolls off a velvety moss frond, soaking silently into the earth. Millions of fine root hairs expand their surface area, drinking in the sudden moisture with quiet efficiency. Deep within the root core, a specialized cellular cylinder acts as a vigilant filter for incoming water. This microscopic barrier, the Casparian strip, ensures that only pure water and essential nutrients enter the vascular system. Even in the profound darkness of night, a slow and steady upward pull of water continues relentlessly. The entire underground ecosystem breathes in perfect unison, grounding the massive canopy above in stable, ancient earth. Driven by the pure physics of evaporation, the sap slowly ascends the silent wooden pillar. At night, without the sun's energy, the tree shifts from photosynthesis to cellular respiration. Oxygen is drawn in through the lenticels, quietly breaking down stored starches into usable energy. Microscopic organelles known as mitochondria burn these sugars, generating warmth throughout the dark, quiet hours. Nestled securely in the crook of a branch, a small ladybug enters a state of torpor. Its metabolism drops significantly, conserving precious energy while waiting for the morning warmth to return. The gentle gravitational pull of the moon exerts a subtle influence on the slowly rising sap. Tension within the water columns remains perfectly unbroken. A continuous microscopic thread from root to leaf. At the very tip of a branch, a dormant bud rests under hardened, waxy protective scales. These resilient scales tightly overlap, shielding the fragile embryonic leaves from the cooling night air. A gentle nocturnal breeze sways the branches, releasing a faint scent of evaporating plant oils. Microscopic glands on the leaf surface slowly secrete these volatile compounds into the calm, humid atmosphere. This invisible aromatic mist gracefully settles over the orchard floor, creating a naturally soothing chemical blanket. The sturdy stem holding the growing fruit reinforces its cellular bonds, ensuring a profoundly secure attachment. Through tiny pores on its skin, the unripe apple silently exhales a microscopic breath of carbon dioxide. In the deepest hours of the night, the leaf surface achieves total isolation from the outside world. Millions of tiny stomata remain tightly sealed, locking vital moisture inside the protective cellular walls. The entire orchard stands motionless under a blanket of heavy, cool nocturnal air. Within the massive trunk, the upward flow of sap slows to a nearly imperceptible crawl. Deep inside each plant cell, the central vacuole maintains a steady, comforting internal pressure. This delicate balance of water and dissolved minerals keeps the massive canopy supported and vibrant. Hanging securely from a slender stem, a solitary bee rests in a state of suspended animation. Its powerful wings are completely still, waiting patiently for the morning sun to return. As the silver moon begins its slow descent, shadows stretch gently across the mossy orchard floor. A single fallen leaf rests on the damp earth, beginning its quiet return to the soil. Microscopic fungi patiently break down the organic matter, recycling essential nutrients in the dark. Nothing in this vast ecosystem is wasted, as every ending seamlessly becomes a new beginning. Far below the surface, the delicate root tips wait in the cool, moist earth. The intricate machinery of life is gracefully paused, finding restoration in the profound silence. Surrounded by the deep, comforting blue of the late night, the trees simply exist, resting completely. Cellular respiration slowing, stomata fully sealed, xylem tension holding, mycorrhizae resting deep, turgor pressure stable, cambium layers quiet, chloroplasts waiting safely, phloem transport paused, trichomes gathering dew, cuticle waxes hardening, mitochondria softly warming, endodermis filtering slowly, lenticels barely breathing, guard cells relaxing, perfect botanical stillness, moisture softly merging, fibers resting completely, mycelium threads silent, dormant buds protected, xylem perfectly still, serrated edges calm, pores holding breath, roots anchored deep, cellular walls secure, insects safely dreaming, mist covering earth, starlight filtering down, chlorophyll waiting patiently, micro-oceans resting, total botanical sleep, endless atmospheric calm, heavy fog settling, tree rings holding, carbon softly stored, roots breathing slow, water tension perfect, nocturnal shadows blending, branches perfectly still, stomata tightly closed, internal sap waiting, moss trapping dew, fungal threads dreaming, cold night embraced, cellular geometry fixed, absolute natural balance, dew droplets suspended, bark crevice secure, root hairs dormant, spores resting quietly, xylem tension locked, mist holding time, cuticle barrier safe, guard cells asleep, moss absorbing silence, soil microbes resting, phloem sugars thick, winter buds shielded, canopy silhouettes soft, earth firmly anchored, deepest botanical peace. As the deep night extends its quiet reign, the apple tree begins its crucial phase of cellular repair. Microscopic wear and tear from the sunlit hours is slowly addressed by specialized, restorative enzymes. Deep within the cellular matrix, complex proteins are synthesized, weaving new strength into delicate membranes. Down in the cool, insulating earth, the root tips silently push a fraction of a millimeter deeper. Guided by the symbiotic fungal network, they seek out hidden reserves of moisture locked in the clay. this slow, deliberate expansion requires immense patience. Fueled by carbon stored during the golden afternoon, the structural integrity of the massive trunk relies entirely on these unseen, deeply buried subterranean efforts. Above ground, the heavy dew provides a secondary source of hydration, absorbing directly through the epidermis. Each microscopic droplet is a precious oasis, slowly drawn into the thirsty, resting plant tissues. The sleeping ecosystem shares this quiet abundance, with nocturnal insects resting securely beneath the dripping canopy. A solitary spider web, strung between two dormant twigs, catches the heavy mist like glowing silver threads. The intricate silk vibrates almost imperceptibly, a silent testament to the gentle breath of the sleeping forest. On the developing fruit, the waxy cuticle thickens, forming a brilliant evolutionary shield against the biting cold. Every microscopic botanical gateway remains firmly sealed, maintaining a profound, unwavering commitment to preservation and rest. The entire orchard exists in a state of suspended grace, anchored firmly in the ancient, nurturing earth. As the midnight temperature continues its slow descent, the tree engages a remarkable survival mechanism. Inside the dark cells, complex starches are carefully broken down into simpler, soluble sugars. These sweet molecules act as a natural antifreeze, protecting the fragile cellular fluids from freezing. Simultaneously, the plant synthesizes defensive compounds, quietly fortifying its immune system against microscopic fungal threats. Deep within the woody trunk, the silent hours are used to repair tiny air bubbles. These bubbles, formed during the heat of the day, threaten to break the vital water columns. Gentle root pressure slowly pushes water upward, dissolving the trapped air and restoring perfect tension. As the vascular network heals, the entire trunk subtly expands, swelling with restored midnight hydration. The thick, luminous mist surrounding the branches acts as a heavy, insulating thermal blanket. Pale lichens clinging to the bark act like slow sponges, drinking in the airborne moisture. Within these damp, microscopic forests, incredibly resilient organisms gently stir in the comforting humidity. High above, a sleeping finch fluffs its feathers, mirroring the tree's own insulating trichome hairs. The massive canopy acts as a protective umbrella, catching the heaviest moisture from the sky. Drops accumulate on the rigid stems, tracing slow, winding paths down the grooved, ancient bark. Every living element within this vast network supports the others, woven into a silent, perfect equilibrium. Far beneath the sleeping canopy, microscopic grains of ancient rock slowly dissolve in the damp earth. Translucent root hairs gently absorb these dissolved minerals, pulling essential elements through their delicate cellular membranes. Deep inside the root, the endodermis acts as a perfect biological filter, ensuring absolute purity. In return, the tree releases rich carbon exudates into the soil, feeding millions of waiting microbes. This subterranean alchemy transforms raw earth into bioavailable nutrients, creating a self-sustaining cycle of quiet life. Even the tireless earthworms pause their tunneling, resting heavily within their smooth, cool subterranean chambers. Between the grains of soil, delicate bridges of water maintain perfect surface tension through the long night. Essential calcium slowly reinforces the cell walls, ensuring the roots remain strong enough to anchor the massive tree. This vast, interconnected underground intelligence sleeps deeply, yet remains constantly aware of the forest's shifting needs. Where the ancient roots meet the cool air, the heavy bark acts as an impenetrable shield against the night. Even the microscopic breathing pores on the trunk are temporarily sealed by the overwhelming weight of the midnight dew. The mist itself seems to breathe, moving with a slow, hypnotic rhythm across the velvet moss of the orchard floor. Tiny moss capsules bow under the weight of the condensation, yielding completely to the physical pressure of the atmosphere, deep within the heartwood. The oldest cells stand as silent, permanent sentinelles, holding the memories of countless seasons past. The entire living architecture surrenders entirely to the restorative power of the deep. Unbroken botanical silence. As the heavy midnight air settles completely, microscopic droplets of water begin to gently coalesce, forming delicate, perfectly spherical beads along the rigid, resting structures of the apple tree bark. This incredible physical tension holds the moisture securely, creating a temporary, suspended micro-ocean above the ground. Within these tiny isolated pools, microscopic life forms enter a state of deep, restorative, suspended animation. The thick cellular walls of these organisms harden perfectly, acting as an impenetrable biological armor. Deep within the wood, the internal temperature of the tree is carefully regulated by chemical buffers. These natural compounds absorb the chilling dampness, releasing the faintest trace of microscopic organic heat, ensuring that the delicate vascular cambium remains perfectly insulated against the deepest cold of the night. Down in the dark earth, specialized beneficial fungi gently wrap around the newly formed root tips, creating a protective biological sheath that naturally repels harmful pathogens attempting to breach the cellular walls. This silent underground partnership requires absolutely no energy from the sleeping canopy, functioning on ancient instinct. A single drop of heavy condensation finally releases its grip, falling silently through the thick fog, landing softly onto a bed of velvet moss, where it is instantly absorbed into the earth. The moss acts as a perfect natural sponge, filtering the pure water down to the resting roots, completing a flawless, closed loop of hydration that sustains the entire ecosystem through the dark hours. Even as the air cools, the rich orchard soil quietly exhales a steady stream of microscopic carbon. This gentle soil respiration is the unseen breath of billions of microbes processing fallen organic matter, slowly releasing warmth and carbon dioxide back into the thick, sheltering blanket of the pre-dawn fog. The lower branches of the ancient apple tree capture this rising carbon, holding it softly in the mist, storing the precious gas against the closed stomata, waiting patiently for the very first rays of morning light. This invisible exchange creates a perfectly balanced atmosphere, completely isolating the sleeping forest from the harsh world outside. A resting moth, cloaked entirely in microscopic dew, slows its heart rate to match the deep forest rhythm. pumping hemolymph through its tiny body just once every few minutes, conserving vital energy in the dark. Grains of apple pollen remain safely tucked within its fur, ready to complete the cycle of pollination tomorrow. Every dormant bud, every sleeping insect, and every buried root operates on this exact same frequency of rest. A profound stillness that penetrates all the way down to the individual cellular fluids resting in the wood. The massive root system acts as a giant anchor, grounding this complex web of life into the bedrock, slowly secreting mild organic acids to etch essential minerals directly from the solid stone, even while completely asleep. A microscopic, silent sculpting of the earth that will provide the exact nutrients needed for tomorrow's new growth. Surrounded by the endless deep blue mist, the apple tree stands as a monument to patience and endurance. Deep within the woody core, rigid molecules of lignin reinforce the microscopic cellular architecture, ensuring the towering trunk remains perfectly stable, supporting the massive weight of the sleeping canopy. Microscopic channels within the membranes, known as aquaporins, carefully manage the slow, resting flow of internal water, maintaining the exact balance of turgor pressure needed to keep every branch safely elevated. Even the thick, waxy edges of the closed stomata reflect a profound, immovable commitment to conservation. The rich, golden sugars within the phloem remain completely locked in a state of suspended animation, wrapped safely inside a vast, unbroken ocean of luminous, deep indigo pre-dawn fog. Beneath the surface, the delicate white fungal threads silently store tiny, precious reserves of moisture, creating an underground reservoir that will nourish the ancient tree when the warm sun finally returns. The sleeping moth remains utterly motionless, trusting the heavy dew to mask its delicate scent from predators. While on the developing apple, tiny pores on the green skin remain sealed against the creeping chill, protecting the sleeping seeds nestled deep within the fruit, cradling the genetic future of the entire forest. The thick, velvet moss clinging to the ancient bark continues to silently absorb the heavy atmospheric moisture. Microscopic valves within the water columns remain tightly shut, holding the internal fluids in perfect, motionless tension. The entire ecosystem rests in this flawless, closed loop of survival, waiting patiently in the deep blue calm. Invisible to the eye, the sleeping apple tree slowly releases microscopic droplets of aromatic terpenes. These natural essential oils evaporate into the heavy blue mist, creating a powerful, calming botanical shield. This invisible, fragrant canopy acts as a natural deterrent, gently keeping wandering nocturnal herbivores at a safe distance. Deep within the moss, a microscopic springtail rests perfectly motionless, its tiny metabolism barely registering, protected by the thick, damp velvet fibers. It dreams in a state of suspended botanical animation. Beneath the soil, immense stores of starch are safely locked away within the deepest root chambers. Microscopic organelles, called amyloplasts, hold these heavy energy reserves, firmly anchoring the tree in the Earth's gravity. The entire organism is pulled downward, embracing the massive, grounding force of the silent planet. Within the outer bark layers, the residual sap becomes dense and thick, resisting the creeping frost. The thick, waxy cuticle of the developing apple reflects the faint silver starlight, utterly impenetrable. Inside the core, the tiny embryonic leaves of the future seed lie folded in perfect, dark silence. Every cellular door remains tightly bolted against the cold, preserving the delicate balance of internal hydration. Even the symbiotic fungal threads pause their relentless search, hoarding tiny, precious beads of soil moisture. The orchard exists in a perfect bubble of suspended time, separated entirely from the rushing world. A profound, unbroken state of cellular rest, maintaining a slow, quiet rhythm of survival until dawn. Within the deep, insulated rings of the heartwood, the tree stores its oldest cellular memories. These dense, ancient layers of lignin provide structural permanence, remaining utterly unchanged by the passing night. Far below, a single nematode worm rests perfectly still in a microscopic film of soil water, entering a temporary state of cryptobiosis. It completely shuts down its metabolism to endure the cold. This incredible biological resilience mirrors the deep, unwavering strength of the massive apple tree above. In the highest branches, specialized cells slowly accumulate sugars to prevent delicate tissues from suffering frost damage. This gradual increase in osmotic pressure acts as a perfect, invisible shield against the dropping temperatures. The heavy, saturated fog continues to roll through the orchard, wrapping the wood in absolute silence. Even the sharp, serrated edges of the leaves appear soft and muted in the deep blue light. Inside the dormant buds, embryonic flowers wait in complete darkness, dreaming of the distant, warm spring. Their delicate cellular blueprints are perfectly preserved, wrapped in thick, waxy scales against the chilling dampness. A solitary drop of amber tree sap hardens slightly on the outer bark, sealing a tiny wound. This golden resin traps the passing time, reflecting the faint silver moonlight in its glassy surface. The massive root system breathes in perfect, slow unison with the microscopic life hidden in the earth. A profound ecosystem of rest, bound together by the slow, eternal gravity of the turning planet. As the night deepens, microscopic layers of ancient outer bark prepare to gracefully shed. These dry, hardened cells have served their purpose, yielding to the subtle expansion of the wood, revealing the softer, protected layers of inner bark that will vigorously transport nutrients come morning. Delicate colonies of pale lichen quickly claim this newly exposed surface, securing their microscopic foothold. The entire orchard exists in this continuous, slow-motion state of renewal and quiet architectural shift. On the upper canopy, drops of supercooled dew balance perfectly on the edge of freezing, suspended by pure surface tension. This liquid remains completely fluid despite the dropping atmospheric temperatures. Beneath these precarious droplets, the epidermal guard cells remain utterly flat, refusing to open. Far below the frost line, the massive root network enjoys the insulating warmth of the deep earth. Microscopic nitrogen-fixing bacteria attach to the roots enter a temporary slumber, halting their energetic conversions. Tiny air pockets within the soil remain perfectly undisturbed, trapping the humid, earthy botanical breath. Inside the wooden core, the silent vertical channels of the xylem rest in perfect, empty anticipation, while the neighboring phloem safely guards its heavy, viscous cargo of golden liquid carbon. The smooth, waxy skin of the developing fruit acts as a perfect, impenetrable biological mirror, a profoundly silent landscape, where every cellular function is perfectly calibrated for absolute nocturnal preservation. Suspended in the thick, humid air, microscopic molecules of carbon dioxide linger just above the leaf, unable to penetrate the impenetrable waxy cuticle that firmly seals the plant from the midnight chill. Tucked safely beneath this waxy shield, a delicate green lacewing folds its translucent, heavily veined wings, entering a deep, hypnotic torpor as the atmospheric temperature drops to its absolute lowest point. Microscopic beads of moisture slowly collect on the insect's resting antennae, reflecting the faint silver starlight. This heavy, moisture-laden mist slowly descends through the intricate architecture of the ancient apple branches, gently hydrating the rugged outer bark without waking the deeply dormant cellular layers hidden beneath. Far below the surface, the dense cellular cap of a resting root tip waits in complete silence, surrounded by a microscopic galaxy of dormant potassium ions locked safely within the cold clay matrix. A microscopic film of undisturbed water bridges the gap between the living root and the ancient stone, a silent testament to the enduring symbiotic patience that sustains this entire hidden subterranean world. Above ground, the sprawling orchard meadow is now completely blanketed by a sea of thick indigo fog, muffling every stray sound and wrapping the towering trees in an infinitely soft, protective embrace. The pale, distant moon is barely visible, a soft silver smudge dissolving in the heavy atmosphere, while the ancient botanical machinery continues its slow, perfect rhythm of absolute nocturnal preservation and rest. Deep inside the phloem tubes, microscopic callose plugs are slowly deposited to seal off older vessels. This organic polymer acts as a perfect biological sealant, ensuring the precious sap remains securely contained. The towering trunk stands as a silent guardian, holding these complex internal systems in absolute safety. Far below the surface, the delicate root hairs continue their passive, effortless absorption of soil moisture. A dormant earthworm rests heavily in the dark clay, its slow metabolism pausing the digestion of leaves. Enveloped in the cool, damp earth, the tiny creature finds profound comfort in the surrounding stillness. The entire subterranean world shares this unified pause, suspended in a state of deep, restorative hibernation. High above, in the mist, the millions of epidermal stomata remain firmly locked against the cold. Heavy beads of condensation rest across the cellular gateways, completely blocking any microscopic exchange of air. Nestled within a deep bark crevice, the sleeping ladybug is now entirely cloaked in silver dew. Its smooth, armored shell reflects the deep indigo mist, completely camouflaged and protected from the night. The ancient apple branches bow ever so slightly under the accumulating weight of the atmospheric moisture. Yet the rigid wood fibers hold the heavy canopy with effortless, ancient strength and perfect balance. Every microscopic ring of cellulose and lignin works in quiet harmony to support the sleeping forest, bound together by the heavy, luminous fog. The orchard rests deeply in an unbroken botanical slumber. In this profound state of botanical rest, the microscopic activities within the tree shift entirely. Deep within the heartwood, complex starch molecules are meticulously categorized and securely locked into place. These tightly bound reserves serve as the vital battery for the coming spring's explosive growth. Nearby, the microscopic sieve plates of the phloem tubes are heavily fortified with thick callos. This internal sealing prevents any precious sap from leaking into the freezing, moisture-heavy night air. On the dark soil surface, a single fungal spore waits with infinite patience. Its thick, armored cell wall reflects the faint silver starlight, utterly impervious to the cold. Nearby, a fallen apple slowly yields its stored sugars back to the damp, welcoming earth. Microscopic soil bacteria begin to gently break down the fruit, glowing with a faint warmth. This silent decay provides a slow, steady trickle of organic heat to the resting roots. The pale, delicate root tips absorb this warmth, maintaining a fraction of their cellular activity. A microscopic meniscus of water curves perfectly between two grains of dark, mineral-rich orchard clay. This physical curve of water holds incredible tension, refusing to freeze in the insulated soil. Above ground, the lower branches droop under the sheer, accumulated weight of the atmospheric moisture. The entire living structure yields to the heavy, comforting blanket of the deep blue fog. Deep inside the living tissue, the cellular nucleus rests in a state of profound, suspended animation. Microscopic strands of genetic memory are perfectly preserved within this secure, hydrated biological vault. The surrounding cytoplasm becomes thick and viscous, slowing every internal chemical reaction to an absolute crawl. Even the dormant chloroplasts absorb the faintest traces of scattered starlight, waiting patiently in the dark. Above them, the impermeable waxy cuticle reflects the deep indigo mist, a flawless biological shield, hidden securely within the bark. A sleeping ladybug lowers its metabolic rate to bare survival. Its tiny respiratory spiracles draw in the thinnest sliver of cold, misty oxygen. Far below, the ancient soil network hums with the slow, steady vibration of countless dormant organisms. A heavily armored fungal spore lies buried in the clay, entirely unaffected by the freezing surface. Insulated by the dark earth, the massive roots continue their silent, microscopic grip on the bedrock. High above, a single, heavy drop of dew finally breaks free from a drooping leaf tip, plunging silently through the thick atmospheric ocean of deep blue, pre-dawn fog. It lands with incredible softness upon a cushion of pale green lichen clinging to the trunk. The thirsty, resting organism instantly absorbs the moisture, its delicate ruffled edges plumping in the dark. This continuous, silent cycle of hydration binds the entire sleeping forest into a perfect, unbroken rhythm. As the ambient temperature reaches its absolute lowest point, microscopic ice crystals attempt to form. But the dense, sugary sap within the plant cells successfully repels the creeping, freezing frost. The dormant winter buds remain perfectly insulated, their embryonic leaves wrapped in a thermal embrace. Deep underground, the ancient soil network preserves a vital fraction of organic, life-sustaining heat. This delicate thermal balance ensures the entire root system survives the harshest hours of night. Inside the wood, the golden phloem sap rests in a state of ultimate, frozen pause. The forest descends into the deepest, quietest trench of the night, surrendering to total rest. Looking upward from the mossy earth, the massive, dark canopy appears to float completely weightless. Suspended in the thick, luminous indigo fog, time itself seems to entirely lose its grip. Every heavy branch and dormant leaf hangs motionless, cradled by the dense, atmospheric nocturnal ocean. The microscopic stomata remain perfectly flat, their guard cells locked in an effortless, eternal hold. Internal water columns defy gravity, held in the xylem by an unbreakable, invisible, microscopic tension. This vast network of suspended liquid creates a structural balance that requires absolutely zero energy. Even the resting nocturnal insects hang weightless beneath the leaves, entrusting their lives to gravity. The entire ecosystem floats in a magnificent, slow-motion suspension, waiting patiently within the deep blue. High above, the delicate web of a spider catches a single, perfectly round water bead. This suspended droplet acts as a tiny, flawless lens reflecting the deep blue nocturnal world. A microscopic fungal spore drifts lazily through the humid air, untethered from the damp earth, drifting upward on an invisible thermal current. It dances through the incredibly thick, sleepy mist. Even the heavy, ancient bark of the trunk seems to soften its rugged, woody edges, blurring seamlessly into the surrounding fog. The physical boundaries of the forest slowly dissolve completely. Inside the leaves, the central vacuoles are perfectly still, their internal pressure holding absolutely constant. Without the drawing power of the sun, the microscopic water tension simply maintains its hold. The entire intricate plumbing of the massive tree enters a flawless, zero-energy state of hovering. Deep in the soil, root hairs suspend their active searching, resting in the cool dampness. A dormant tardigrade floats gently within its tiny water bubble, fully surrendered to the suspension. This state of profound biological floating allows the organism to survive the deepest, coldest hours. Nothing moves. Nothing breathes. As the whole orchard hangs weightless in the dark, heavy atmosphere, the delicate trichome hairs on the leaves hold the resting dew with incredible, passive strength. A vast ocean of suspended time, where every botanical function waits in perfectly preserved peace. Locked in this frozen botanical moment, the entire vast cellular network simply ceases to struggle, allowing the thick, insulating atmospheric moisture to physically support the heavy, drooping wooden branches. Deep within the wood, The silent vertical channels of the xylem rest perfectly empty, holding their immense microscopic tension without drawing a single fraction of energy from the core. The massive trunk itself seems to dissolve into the surrounding deep blue ocean of mist, becoming a soft, silent monument of ancient endurance, resting completely untroubled by the freezing dark below the soil. The complex fungal intelligence pauses its relentless search for raw, organic minerals, hoarding tiny, perfect beads of moisture within its white, fibrous threads wrapped around the roots. This intricate subterranean web hums with the slow, synchronized vibration of millions of dormant microbes. A collective, unified pause that perfectly mirrors the suspended, breathless state of the towering canopy. On the smooth skin of the sleeping fruit, tiny waxy pores remain firmly, stubbornly sealed, acting as a flawless biological mirror that gently reflects the faint, diffused silver starlight above. Even the sleeping nocturnal insects hang weightlessly from the leaves, fully surrendered to the night. Their tiny, fragile metabolic engines barely ticking as they wait patiently for the distant dawn. A profound, eternal state of weightlessness, where the entire living forest simply floats in peace. Within this breathless ocean of indigo mist, the ancient apple tree completely stops measuring time. Microscopic chloroplasts rest suspended in the dark cellular fluid, holding their solar energy perfectly dormant. The incredibly complex cellular membranes act as a flawless, quiet fortress against the freezing air. Heavy beads of condensation hang frozen in mid-air, held by the invisible strength of surface tension. Inside these clear, suspended liquid spheres, tiny fragments of silver moonlight are trapped and calmed. Deep beneath the frozen moss, delicate root hairs appear to float weightlessly within microscopic earthen voids, emitting the faintest trace of internal biological warmth. They patiently hold their ground in the dark. Symbiotic white fungal threads wrap around the roots, offering a soft, insulating blanket of organic life. Billions of microscopic soil bacteria share this profound underground slumber, pausing their relentless nutrient recycling. A resting earthworm remains tightly coiled in its smooth clay chamber, breathing at an imperceptible rhythm. Between the dark grains of dirt, tiny liquid bridges of water hold their structural integrity effortlessly. Returning to the surface, the breathing pores on the heavy trunk remain stubbornly and perfectly sealed. Pale green lichens cling to the sleeping wood, silently holding their saturated water reserves without effort. The towering wooden structure requires absolutely no energy to maintain its majestic, sweeping nocturnal balance. An entire living universe floating together in a deeply synchronized, flawlessly peaceful state of suspended animation. Even the passage of the wind holds its breath, allowing the mist to hang completely undisturbed. Microscopic droplets of vapor hover just millimeters above the waxy leaf, defying the pull of gravity. The locked cellular gateways remain utterly unresponsive, preserving the precious internal atmosphere of the sleeping leaf. Deep within the mesophyll layer, dark green organelles float in a thick, protective ocean of cytoplasm. A resting spider, wrapped in a heavy blanket of silver condensation, floats upon its invisible silk, The structural tension of the microscopic web holds the water perfectly still in the deep indigo. Looking upward, the ancient branches seem to drift lazily across the canvas of the misty sky, where the massive wood meets the earth. The physical boundary dissolves entirely into the blue fog. Far below, the vast subterranean network of glowing white fungi enters a state of ultimate suspension. The delicate root tips pause their subterranean journey, resting comfortably in the cool, dark, insulated clay. Billions of resting soil microbes halt their microscopic chemistry, settling into a profound, energy-saving cellular torpor. Internal water columns within the buried roots remain flawlessly suspended, waiting for the distant morning sun. A perfectly still bead of golden sap rests on the bark, holding ancient sunlight completely frozen. The smooth, cold skin of the developing apple reflects the surrounding mist like a polished mirror. A flawless, breathless biological symphony where every living atom rests suspended in the endless deep blue. The thick velvet moss on the orchard floor exhales a silent breath into the freezing mist. A single grain of golden pollen rests completely undisturbed upon a heavily frosted, dormant leaf, held by immaculate surface tension. A clear droplet of water refuses to fall into the dark. Microscopic cellular gateways remain firmly bolted, hoarding the precious internal moisture of the sleeping plant. Deep within the leaf, a central vacuole maintains its flawless, spherical shape in the quiet fluid. The vertical wooden channels of the ancient trunk stand perfectly empty, waiting in hollow, frozen anticipation. Heavy, golden sap within the phloem becomes incredibly dense, completely halting the flow of sugary carbon. Polished by the heavy dampness, the rugged bark reflects a faint, ghostly silver from the sky. A tiny, translucent aphid sleeps deeply within a bark crevice, its fragile metabolism almost entirely stopped. Far underground, a pale root tip rests comfortably in the dark, insulated clay of the earth. Symbiotic white fungal threads gently cradle a microscopic sphere of water, hoarding the vital subterranean moisture. Tiny pockets of air within the soil remain perfectly still, holding the earthy breath of midnight. The massive, ancient trunk rises from the mossy ground, disappearing seamlessly into the endless blue fog. Above, the vast, dark canopy appears to float effortlessly, cradled by the thick, heavy atmospheric ocean. The entire living world hangs suspended in this flawless, eternal moment of profound botanical peace. Submerged in this deep indigo ocean, the wild apple orchard surrenders completely to the mist. Every serrated edge and dormant leaf rests suspended in the heavy, breathless atmospheric pressure. Massive, clear drops of condensation hang frozen in mid-air, defying the quiet pull of gravity. Inside these suspended liquid spheres, microscopic organisms sleep deeply within their flawless, weightless aquatic bubbles. Deep inside the woody trunk, the golden phloem sap remains perfectly locked in suspended animation. The neighboring water channels stand hollow and incredibly still, waiting patiently for the distant dawn. Polished by the heavy dampness, the rugged, ancient bark gently reflects the faint silver starlight. Far below the surface, The vast subterranean network of glowing white fungi hovers in silence. Delicate root tips float effortlessly within microscopic earthen voids, pausing their endless search for moisture. Billions of dormant soil microbes hold their microscopic chemistry in a state of perfect stasis. The massive, towering trunk rises from the mossy earth, dissolving seamlessly into the endless sky. Dark, heavy branches cradle the thick fog, acting as a natural framework for the atmosphere. Tucked securely beneath the foliage, a solitary sleeping bee hangs weightlessly in the blue void. The smooth, cold skin of the developing fruit acts as a flawless, impenetrable botanical mirror. An entire living universe floating together in a deeply synchronized, profoundly peaceful state of suspension. Microscopic particles of mist collide in slow motion, forming heavy blankets of silent, floating moisture. The impenetrable waxy cuticle of the leaves reflects this gathering moisture with perfect, flawless stillness. Beneath the surface, the stomata remain entirely locked, guarding the internal atmosphere of the plant. A dormant butterfly rests safely under the foliage, its delicate antennae folded tightly against the cold. Thousands of microscopic scales on its wings overlap seamlessly, trapping a vital layer of insulating air. Deep inside the wood, invisible columns of water hang perfectly suspended, defying the downward pull of gravity. The rich, sugary sap inside of phloem tubes halts completely, preserved safely within the chilling darkness. Far below the frost line, the ancient root system slumbers deeply inside the heavy, dark clay. Millions of soil microbes enter a profound state of biological torpor, halting all energetic subterranean exchanges. Microscopic bridges of water stretch between soil grains, holding their perfect curved shapes without freezing. The vast, glowing network of white fungi rests silently, hoarding tiny droplets of precious underground moisture. Thick velvet moss on the surface acts as a silent sponge, absorbing the heavy atmospheric condensation rising from the earth. The massive wooden trunk dissolves completely into the surrounding ocean of fog. The dark, intricate canopy floats effortlessly above, suspended entirely by the dense, incredibly thick nocturnal air. The entire wild orchard is bound together in a breathless, perfect state of ultimate biological suspension. Suspended within the heart of the night, the forest exists in a state of pure timelessness. Microscopic frost attempts to crystallize on the delicate trichomes, but is halted by the protective mist. Epidermal guard cells remain completely flat, their locked geometry hoarding every vital microscopic drop of hydration. Deep inside the cellular matrix, the viscous cytoplasm holds delicate organelles in a state of suspended gravity. The dark, perfectly round nucleus rests quietly, preserving the ancient genetic blueprints for the coming spring. A solitary sleeping bee hangs effortlessly beneath the foliage, its fuzzy body cloaked entirely in silver dew. Translucent wings remain perfectly folded, their intricate, microscopic veins resting heavily under the weight of the moisture. The massive, sweeping branches of the apple tree appear to float weightlessly in the thick indigo ocean. Far beneath the soft moss, fragile root hairs suspend their search within the dark, insulated clay Perfectly curved bridges of water stretch between dark soil grains, holding their flawless structural tension effortlessly. Billions of microscopic soil bacteria remain perfectly motionless, their faint pale bioluminescence pulsing at a glacial pace. The vertical wooden channels of the tree's core stand quietly empty, a masterpiece of suspended internal plumbing. Rich, golden sap lies completely dormant inside the neighboring phloem, holding ancient solar energy perfectly frozen. The smooth, waxy skin of the developing fruit acts as an impenetrable mirror to the endless fog. A profound, boundless biological stillness, where the entire wild orchard breathes together as one sleeping entity. The luminous pre-dawn mist holds the sleeping canopy in a soft, unbroken embrace of perfect silence. Microscopic cellular gateways remain flawlessly sealed, locking vital moisture deep inside the resting botanical fortress. A perfectly round bead of condensation rests heavily upon a delicate trichome, completely defying gravity. Suspended within this tiny liquid sphere, the dark orchard is reflected upside down in complete stillness. Hidden safely beneath the heavy foliage, a dormant moth surrenders entirely to the deep nocturnal chill. Its delicate, translucent wings fold tightly, trapping a microscopic layer of essential warmth against the cold. The massive, ancient trunk vanishes slowly into the thick, swirling ocean of deep indigo blue mist. Inside the dense wood, microscopic columns of clear water hang perfectly suspended, waiting for the sun. Neighboring channels of rich golden sap become incredibly viscous, pausing the flow of ancient solar energy. Far below the frosted earth, the sprawling root network slumbers deeply in the insulated, dark clay. Vast networks of symbiotic white fungi halt their endless subterranean search, resting in quiet, glowing harmony. Billions of microscopic soil bacteria slow their chemistry to a glacial pace. Wrapped in earthen shadows, delicate films of pure water bridge the microscopic gaps between soil grains, holding perfectly curved tension. Deep inside a smooth clay chamber, a coiled earthworm lowers its metabolic rate to bare survival. The entire wild ecosystem floats weightlessly within this boundless, timeless ocean of deep botanical suspension, submerged completely in the heavy indigo mist. The ancient orchard exists in a breathless, floating dream. A solitary winter bud rests encapsulated in a delicate shell of soft, yielding pre-dawn frost. Deep within its armored scales, microscopic embryonic cells pause their slow division, wrapped in total darkness. Suspended on the fuzzy leaf surface, a single, flawless drop of dew refuses to fall downward. Trapped within this liquid sphere, the faintest glimmers of distant starlight are held perfectly still. Far beneath the frozen surface, the sprawling subterranean root system slumbers effortlessly in the dark clay. A tiny fungal spore floats weightlessly inside a microscopic pocket of trapped, humid earthen air. The surrounding cellular walls form a perfect, rigid geometry, halting the flow of water entirely. Invisible molecules of carbon dioxide hover motionless, caught in the silent, insulated void of the earth. Rising from this deep slumber, the massive wooden trunk slowly dissolves into the endless blue mist. A resting ladybug, cloaked entirely in heavy condensation, slows its tiny heart to a barely perceptible rhythm. Its smooth, armored shell reflects the deep indigo fog, acting as a perfect, quiet biological mirror. Inside the silent wood, empty water channels stand perfectly hollow, awaiting the distant return of sunlight, while the neighboring phloem securely hoards its thick, golden sap, preserving the tree's ancient solar energy. The entire living forest floats together in this timeless, unified state of profound botanical suspension. The thick ocean of pre-dawn fog continues its slow, hypnotic drift across the sleeping canopy. A solitary drop of condensation hangs completely weightless upon a single strand of invisible silk. Trapped inside this tiny liquid sphere, the faint reflection of a distant star holds perfectly still. Deep within the ancient trunk, the vertical water channels remain perfectly hollow and quietly suspended. Beside them, the thick golden sap of the phloem rests in a state of frozen perfection. The rugged, dark outer bark acts as a silent sponge, slowly absorbing the heavy midnight moisture. Pale green lichens cling tightly to the wood, their delicate fronds plump with held water. Down on the mossy floor, millions of microscopic fungal spores wait patiently in the cold shadows. Far beneath the soil, the sprawling network of white fungi pulses with a faint, glacial glow. A pale root tip floats effortlessly within a tiny, insulated pocket of trapped subterranean air. Billions of dormant soil microbes hold their breath, completely halting their microscopic chemistry until the dawn. Flawless bridges of clear water stretch between the dark grains of earth, refusing to freeze entirely. Tucked safely beneath a frozen leaf, a solitary bee slumbers with a barely perceptible, slow heartbeat. The smooth, cold skin of the developing fruit acts as a perfect mirror to the fog. The entire living universe of the forest continues to float within this boundless, timeless indigo ocean. Locked within this perfect botanical suspension, the ancient apple tree simply forgets the rushing world. A microscopic speck of golden pollen drifts lazily through the breathless, heavy atmospheric ocean. Delicate, fuzzy trichomes hold perfect spheres of clear water, effortlessly defying the downward pull. The microscopic cellular gateways of the leaves remain firmly locked, sealing the fragile internal atmosphere. Deep inside the plant tissue, central vacuoles maintain their flawless geometry in the quiet fluid. The vertical wooden channels of the ancient trunk stand perfectly hollow, resting in silent anticipation. Neighboring channels of rich golden sap freeze entirely, preserving the ancient solar energy within. Dark green velvet moss silently absorbs the heavy moisture, acting as a deep biological sponge. A dormant ladybug rests deeply inside the rugged bark, cloaked completely in heavy silver dew. Far underground, pale root tips float effortlessly inside tiny, insulated air pockets within the clay. The vast network of glowing white fungi rests in quiet harmony, pausing its endless search. Billions of dormant soil microbes hold their cellular chemistry in a state of absolute stasis. Flawless bridges of pure water stretch gently between the dark soil grains without ever freezing. rising from the quiet earth. The massive trunk dissolves seamlessly into the infinite blue fog. The entire living universe of the forest hangs completely weightless within the timeless indigo void. Within this perfectly still, deep indigo ocean, time completely loses its grasp on the forest. The waxy surface of every dormant leaf reflects the misty void in flawless, unbroken silence. Heavy drops of clear condensation refuse to fall, held effortlessly by the invisible microscopic tension. Inside the suspended liquid spheres, tiny fragments of faint silver starlight are trapped and calmed. A dormant moth surrenders entirely to the deep nocturnal chill, hanging weightless beneath the foliage. Thousands of delicate, overlapping scales on its wings trap a vital, invisible layer of warmth. Deep inside the ancient trunk, vertical water channels stand perfectly hollow in quiet, frozen anticipation. The neighboring phloem securely hoards its thick golden sap, perfectly preserving the ancient solar energy. The rugged, dark outer bark continues to act as a silent, enduring biological sponge. Far below the frozen earth, a vast network of white fungi hovers in quiet harmony. Pale root tips float effortlessly inside tiny, insulated air pockets within the dark. Heavy clay. Billions of dormant soil microbes hold their breath, halting all microscopic chemistry until the dawn. Flawless bridges of pure water stretch gently between the dark grains, holding perfectly curved tension. Rising from the mossy earth, the massive wooden trunk dissolves completely into the infinite fog. The entire living universe of the wild orchard hangs perfectly weightless in the eternal blue. In the deepest trench of the night, the living forest enters its ultimate resting phase. Delicate trichome hairs hold tiny, suspended beads of water in a state of flawless balance. Cellular gateways across the waxy leaves remain completely locked, preserving the vital internal atmosphere effortlessly. Deep within the plant tissue, perfectly spherical vacuoles maintain their quiet geometry in the dark. A microscopic springtail sleeps silently within the damp moss, its tiny body surrendering to gravity. Heavy droplets of pre-dawn dew act as flawless biological mirrors, reflecting the endless indigo void. Inside the ancient trunk, vertical water channels rest perfectly hollow, waiting in silent, frozen anticipation. Neighboring channels of rich golden sap halt completely, preserving the ancient solar energy within them. The rugged, dark outer bark continues to act as a silent, enduring sponge for moisture. Far beneath the frozen surface, the sprawling root system slumbers deeply in the insulated clay. A vast network of glowing white fungi hovers in quiet harmony, pausing its endless search. Billions of dormant soil microbes hold their breath, halting all microscopic chemistry until the dawn. Flawless bridges of pure water stretch gently between the dark grains, holding perfectly curved tension. Rising from the mossy earth, the massive wooden trunk dissolves completely into the infinite fog. The entire living universe of the wild orchard hangs perfectly weightless in the eternal blue, drifting endlessly through the deep indigo mist. The forest experiences a profound, weightless slumber. A solitary grain of golden pollen rests perfectly still within a microscopic sphere of water. Thick cellular walls hold their microscopic shapes with ancient, effortless strength against the quiet cold. Dark green chloroplast organelles float blindly in the heavy cellular fluid, conserving their solar memories. A dormant moth hangs delicately beneath the foliage, trusting the sturdy leaf to provide shelter. Thousands of microscopic wing scales overlap flawlessly, weaving a delicate, invisible blanket of thermal insulation. Inside the wood, vertical water columns remain completely hollow and perfectly quiet in the dark. Neighboring channels securely hold thick, golden sap in a magnificent state of absolute frozen preservation. The heavy, deeply grooved outer bark continues to absorb the midnight condensation like a sponge. Deep underground, an intricate web of white fungi pulses with the softest, slowest glacial rhythm. Delicate pale root tips float without gravity inside tiny, insulated earthen chambers of trapped air. Billions of dormant soil bacteria hold their microscopic chemistry in a state of flawless stasis. Perfectly curved bridges of clear water stretch between the dark soil grains, refusing to freeze. Rising gently from the frozen earth, the massive wooden trunk dissolves completely into the sky. The entire living universe of the forest hangs completely motionless in an eternal blue dream. Submerged in the breathless ocean of indigo mist, time completely stops for the ancient orchard. A single, perfect sphere of clear dew rests weightlessly upon a microscopic fuzzy leaf hair. Trapped inside the liquid sphere, a tiny fragment of silver starlight holds perfectly, flawlessly still. Cellular gateways on the leaf surface remain bolted shut, silently hoarding the vital internal moisture. Deep inside the plant tissue, central vacuoles maintain their perfect, spherical geometry in the dark. A resting spider hangs effortlessly on invisible silk, wrapped entirely in a heavy silver blanket. The microscopic silk threads hold the heavy condensation perfectly, defying the quiet pull of gravity. Within, the ancient wood. Vertical channels of the xylem stand perfectly hollow and deeply silent. Neighboring channels hold incredibly dense, golden sap, freezing the ancient solar energy perfectly in place. Far below the mossy floor, the sprawling root system slumbers deeply within the insulated clay. A vast, glowing web of white fungi rests in quiet harmony, pausing its endless search. Pale, delicate root tips float effortlessly inside tiny, microscopic earthen voids of trapped subterranean air. Billions of dormant soil bacteria hold their breath, completely halting all cellular chemistry until dawn. Rising from the frozen earth, the massive wooden trunk dissolves completely into the endless fog. The entire living universe of the forest hangs completely weightless in an eternal blue dream. Submerged in the deep indigo ocean, the ancient apple tree surrenders entirely to the mist. Microscopic frost attempts to crystallize on the waxy leaf, but is softened by the fog. Massive, clear drops of condensation hang frozen in mid-air, effortlessly defying the pull of gravity. Inside these suspended liquid spheres, microscopic organisms sleep deeply within their flawless, weightless aquatic bubbles. Cellular gateways across the leaves remain completely locked, preserving the vital internal atmosphere without effort. Deep within the plant tissue, perfectly spherical vacuoles maintain their quiet, flawless geometry in the dark. A microscopic springtail sleeps silently within the damp moss, its tiny body surrendering to the void. Microscopic silk threads hold the heavy condensation perfectly still, creating a flawless, structural biological suspension. Inside the ancient trunk, vertical water channels rest perfectly hollow, waiting in silent, frozen anticipation. Neighboring channels securely hold incredibly dense, golden sap, freezing the ancient solar energy perfectly in place. Far below the mossy floor, the sprawling root system slumbers deeply within the heavy, insulated clay. A vast, glowing web of white fungi rests in quiet harmony, pausing its endless subterranean search. Pale, delicate root tips float effortlessly inside tiny, microscopic earthen voids of trapped subterranean air. Billions of dormant soil bacteria hold their breath, completely halting all cellular chemistry until the dawn. The entire living universe of the forest hangs perfectly weightless in an eternal, deep blue dream. At the absolute 0 hour of the night, the forest rests in a state of flawless, breathless equilibrium. Microscopic cellular doors remain bolted securely against the cold, locking precious hydration deep inside the plant. A single microscopic ice crystal attempts to form, but halts instantly against the waxy, insulated shield. Inside the heavy cellular fluid, dormant green organelles float blindly in a state of perfectly preserved peace. Hidden beneath a frozen leaf, a sleeping ladybug lowers its tiny heartbeat to an almost imperceptible rhythm. Ancien, rugged bark continues its silent work, absorbing the heavy atmospheric moisture like a deep biological sponge. Deep inside the wood, golden channels of sap remain totally frozen, preserving ancient light in the dark. Beside them, the hollow vertical water tubes stand perfectly quiet, resting in a state of empty anticipation. Far beneath the mossy surface, the massive root system slumbers effortlessly within the cold, heavy clay. An immense underground web of glowing white fungi hovers completely still, pausing its endless, silent subterranean search. Pale, delicate root caps float weightlessly inside tiny, insulated air pockets trapped deep within the dark earth. Billions of dormant soil bacteria hold their breath, perfectly halting all microscopic chemistry in the frozen dirt. Unbreakable bridges of pure water stretch between the soil grains, holding their flawless, curved shapes without freezing. Rising from the quiet ground, the massive wooden trunk slowly vanishes into an infinite ocean of fog. The entire living universe hangs perfectly suspended, waiting patiently within the profound depths of the blue void. At the absolute edge of the night, the frozen forest exists within a flawless, silent void. A microscopic sphere of clear condensation hangs weightlessly upon the waxy leaf, refusing to surrender. Inside the suspended water, a dormant tardigrade sleeps deeply, perfectly preserved within its tiny, frozen bubble. The thick cellular gateways remain fiercely locked against the deep chill, hoarding their precious internal atmosphere. Dormant chloroplasts float silently in the thick cellular fluid, patiently holding the ancient memories of sunlight, A sleeping moth hangs completely motionless beneath the foliage, its delicate wings wrapped in heavy dew. The ancient, ridged bark of the massive trunk silently absorbs the surrounding ocean of heavy mist. Deep within the wood, channels of thick golden sap remain entirely frozen in a spectacular pause. Beside them, the hollow vertical water tubes wait quietly, maintaining their effortless, zero-energy structural suspension. Far below the frosted surface, massive wooden roots slumber endlessly inside the dark, heavy, insulated earth. The vast subterranean web of glowing white fungi hovers in complete harmony, pausing its silent search. Billions of microscopic soil bacteria hold their breath, stopping their intricate chemistry in the cold clay. Flawless, perfectly curved bridges of pure water stretch between the dark dirt grains, refusing to freeze. Rising from the mossy ground, the heavy wooden trunk vanishes completely into the endless blue fog. The entire living universe hangs perfectly weightless, lingering at the ultimate threshold of the deep night. At the furthest edge of the horizon, the deep indigo void begins to subtly thin. A suspended droplet of dew catches the very first, imperceptible shift in atmospheric light. Across the leaf surface, locked cellular gateways sense the faintest change in the chilling air. Deep within the tissue, dormant chloroplasts stir slightly, anticipating the distant return of solar energy. Beneath the frozen foliage, a sleeping moth registers the shifting temperature, its delicate antenna twitching. Inside the woody core, the frozen golden sap begins to subtly lose its dense viscosity. Empty water channels prepare for the morning, their structural tension shifting ever so slightly upward. The rugged, moisture-laden bark begins to reflect a pale, cold cyan from the waking sky. Far below the earth, a microscopic chemical signal travels down through the deep root network. Millions of dormant soil bacteria subtly increase their glowing pulse, preparing to resume their chemistry. The vast subterranean web of white fungi senses the morning, gently vibrating in the dampness. Deep within its clay chamber, a resting earthworm slowly begins to loosen its tight coil. Microscopic bridges of water between the dirt grains gently expand as the soil imperceptibly warms. Looking up the massive trunk, the heavy indigo mist begins to reveal its towering silhouette. The entire wild orchard breathes a collective, silent sigh as the deep night finally breaks. Microscopic crystals of night frost begin to gently melt, transforming back into soft, heavy dew. Inside the living wood, the thick golden sap finally begins its slow, viscous downward descent, while the vertical water columns of the xylem pull upward, responding to the shifting dawn. Cellular guard cells slowly absorb vital moisture, swelling gently to unlock the sealed leaf surface. A pale moth vibrates its delicate wings, generating microscopic heat to awaken its frozen muscles. Far beneath the soil, millions of dormant bacteria accelerate their glowing pulse, resuming chemical life. The vast fungal network reawakens, actively passing tiny spheres of trapped moisture toward the roots. Awakened by the subtle warmth, delicate, pale root tips push gently into the surrounding clay. On the orchard floor, the heavy velvet moss releases its stored water in slow, rhythmic drips. An earthworm uncoils completely, navigating through the damp earth to resume its vital, silent ploughing. Tiny pores upon the green apple skin sense the changing atmosphere, preparing to breathe again. Deep within the plant tissue, expanding central vacuoles fill with fresh water, restoring internal pressure. Dark green chloroplasts align themselves perfectly, eagerly waiting to capture the very first solar rays. The heavy indigo mist continues to thin, revealing the sweeping architecture of the ancient canopy. The entire wild apple orchard stands tall in the pale cyan light, deeply rested and renewed. As the mist finally clears, the vast canopy embraces the crisp, pale cyan morning sky. A single, perfect dewdrop catches the very first, brilliant golden ray of the rising sun. Microscopic stomata gateways open fully across the leaves, taking a deep, refreshing breath of morning air. Dark green chloroplasts instantly absorb the golden sunlight, igniting the ancient miracle of photosynthesis once again. A pale moth slowly unfolds its delicate wings, basking in the gentle, returning solar warmth. Strands of invisible spider silk transform into brilliant golden strings, sparkling with heavy morning condensation. Deep within the trunk, the golden phloem sap flows vibrantly downward, carrying fresh energy to the roots. Clear water columns race upward through the xylem, answering the irresistible, vital call of the sun. Far below, pale root tips actively push through the warming clay, resuming their endless subterranean journey. The vast glowing fungal network actively pulses with life, rapidly passing vital moisture and organic nutrients. Billions of soil microbes buzz with energetic chemistry, fully awakened by the rising temperature of the earth. A resilient earthworm glides smoothly through its tunnel, aerating the rich soil for the new day. Armored scales on a dormant winter bud part slightly, revealing a tiny glimpse of soft green tissue. Golden sun rays finally strike the ancient, rugged bark, physically warming the massive tree after the long night. Bathed in the soft, golden light of dawn, the entire wild orchard breathes awake, deeply restored.